Hello everybody, it's Shady here, and today I want to talk about Persona 6, and specifically, I want to talk about why I think we're finally going to hear something in 2025, and also I want to go over what I'd like to see from the game when when it finally does come out. And yeah, obviously, if you're new to the channel, I'm a hobbyist YouTuber who basically just does all things gaming, discussion videos, news, gameplay videos, anything you want, all things gaming. Like, subscribe. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, so in my opinion, I think we're finally going to see something to do with Persona 6 next year, mainly because obviously, it's been, I think, a decade or something like that since Persona 5 for one. So yeah, I think we're well overdue Persona 6. Obviously, we did have Persona 3 this year, and obviously it did very well. But as you guys know, that was actually done by a different team. The main guys who did Persona 5 were the same people behind Metaphor Fantasio. And obviously, now that that game's out, I think those people are free now, aren't they? So I would assume they're going to jump on to do Persona 6. Unless, of course, the Reload team are the ones who are doing 6, maybe. We'll have to wait and see. But I would imagine they're going to have the same people behind 5 doing 6, personally. And yeah, I think, I would imagine we're going to see, in my opinion anyway, just like with Persona 5, when that was first kind of revealed, we'll just have an image just saying it's a thing. It was like, if you remember, it was just like the 5 chairs or something, and there was like the handcuffs, whatever it was, just an image, and it said Persona 5. So I'd imagine we'll have something like that, just like a teaser, just to say it's there. Maybe we'll see some sort of concept art or something, maybe even a little bit of gameplay, potentially. Yeah, I wouldn't expect it for at least a year or two, maybe. I think the absolute earliest it could come out is probably 2026. But yeah, I just don't think it would be that far into development, personally, because of Reload and because of Metaphor. But that's just my thoughts anyway. But yeah, obviously, I think also because, there is a possibility when the Switch 2 is finally announced, we could see it there. I would imagine it's going to be there because obviously we saw Shin Megami Tensei 5 at the first kind of partner showcase for the original Switch. It was like one of the first games announced, even though it took like bloody, 4 or 5 years to come out finally. So I'd imagine a similar thing. I'd imagine it will come out sooner than that though. Because obviously, I'm assuming it's going to use Unreal Engine 4, just like, Shin Megami Tensei 5 and Persona 3 Reload. So obviously they're a bit more used to the engine, can probably streamline development. And obviously this is going to be like Atlus's biggest game, so I'd imagine they're going to, it's going to be quite a big team working on it. So yeah. But obviously next up, I want to talk about what I personally want to see from the game. Obviously, I think it's a given that's going to be the high school setting. That's just what they do with Persona. All of them have done that. So I don't expect that to change. I know there's some people who are like, don't like that setting, but that's just the setting and they're going to stay with that. I don't see that changing. Yeah, next up, I think we will probably, I'm talking about what I want to see. Yeah, personally, I really want to see a female MC this time, mainly because, there was a lot of outcry from Persona 3 Reload, excluding the femme MC. Obviously, we know it's because it basically would have been too much effort, really, because there's a lot more voiced lines, and they were basically doing a ground up remake of the original game. So obviously, they weren't ever gonna do the female MC. So yeah, I think it would be really cool if they were to include that in the new one, or in Persona 6, especially now that I think, nowadays I think female protagonists are a lot more of a common thing anyway, so, yeah, I would imagine, it's, there's not that kind of expectation that, you need to have a male protagonist. I don't know. It might just be me, maybe not. Yeah, personally, I'd love the option of both myself. You know, it would be cool as hell. Obviously, if we had to have one of the two, I would prefer female, but I think it'd be awesome if we at least have the option, you know? Maybe they can do it where you have both a male and a female character. You choose one as the main character, and then the other one is like, you know, a party member. Like, that would be a cool way of doing it, you know? So you don't have to worry too much about having to, you know, do all these extra lines, blah, 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 because the other character will still be involved in the story. And yeah, that'd be cool. I don't know what they could do. They could just have them be brother and sister or something. I don't know. That's for them to work out. But anyway, I've talked about that bit too much or enough. But next up, yeah, obviously, you know, I think it's going to be a visual novel, obviously, first and foremost, as with the other games. But personally, I really want to see them lean a lot heavier into the RPG elements, because, you know, I love the Persona games, but for me anyway, in comparison to like the mainline SMT, I always feel like, you know, it always feels like too much visual novel stuff, and the RPG elements feel a bit too basic for my liking. Like, yeah, I would just like it to be a little bit more in depth. Obviously, you know, like I said, we're gonna have the press down system. I would love it if, like, especially after playing Metaphor, ReFantazio Hero, and Tokyo Mirage Sessions, if you played either one of those games, they have a job system. So essentially, you're able to add a basically, you can change your kind of, you know, equivalency of personas into different classes, which obviously just adds extra dimension to the combat, really. Also, you know, one thing I really want to see is maybe the other party members can equip different personas. That would be a cool thing. Like, obviously, the main character can equip everyone, but we should at least have like a few options for the main characters or the side characters, maybe, you know, because one thing I don't like is that, you know, because, like, for me personally, I love playing as my favorite characters in my party, you know, like, for example, you know, when I'm Persona 3, for example, I love having Yukari and Mitsuri in my party. Obviously, if I'm fighting against people with different elements, or elements that they're weak against, I can't really use them in the party, which is annoying. Obviously, you can just switch between them pretty easily, can't you? So, but still, it would be nice if there was like just a little bit more customization with your actual party members. And obviously, on top of that, I think, yeah, the one thing I'd like to see, obviously, yeah, the palaces from 5 need to be a thing, but I want to see them a bit more in depth. I'd like to see, you know, a bit more kind of puzzly elements involved, and just, you know, more in-depth dungeons, you know. I would be happy with, you know, just a few really good dungeons that you kind of go through. Yeah, you know, obviously, you know, usually you explore these dungeons over a few days in the game, so yeah, it would be cool if, you know, they kind of added a bit more to them, because yeah, typically you kind of just, you know, if you play Persona 5, you know, it feels a bit like you're just exploring runes. There's not really a lot to do. There might be the odd little puzzly element, but it's not that much. Especially, again, I bring up Tokyo Mirage Sessions, like those puzzles, those dungeons had a little bit more going for them. There was like, you know, there's the fashion designer one where you kind of have to like move these like arms around, these giant mannequin arms, to be able to, you know, get to different floors and stuff. Like, I'd like something like that would be cool. Yeah, and obviously next up, I think, you know, I think this is just should be a standard thing now, where your entire party level up together, active and inactive party members. This was something they did in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, of all games, where you know, the party members that weren't in your party were still leveling up, and you didn't, yeah, like, maybe you didn't get quite as much experience as the main guys, but they were pretty much leveled up at a similar rate, you know? Yeah, and it just meant that if you wanted to switch party members and whatnot, you don't have to worry too much. Persona 3 Reload did this thing where you have to, you find these floors in Tartarus and you use a particular item and it lets you get one of your party members to the same level as the protagonist or close to it, which is a good way of doing it. But there's too much of randomness to it, and it'd just be better if everyone just leveled up at the same rate. It'd just be a lot better, in my opinion. Yeah, and obviously next up, I personally, I would love it if we could maybe have a little bit more, maybe some more optional kind of bosses and things like that. Like, you get super bosses in games like Final Fantasy and stuff. Yeah, it'd be great to have a little bit more of that sort of stuff. Super bosses are some of my favorite things in JRPGs. Just being able to kind of get kind of what's what I'm trying to say here. Preparing for those battles and fighting them and everything is just so cool. And obviously I would love it personally if maybe we could have people like Demi Fiend or some like protagonists from older Persona games as these optional bosses. I think would be really awesome. Obviously next up, I think this is I think this is the most, but it has to be multi-plat. After Persona 3 Reload, I think it's just obvious that there's just more value in making these games multi-plat. I know obviously originally Persona was made to be a PlayStation exclusive, as we all know. But what was it? Persona 5. I think when they finally ported that, I think it was mainly Switch sales, but that did like 1 million sales or something. That multi-plat release, the Switch, Xbox, and like PS5 release and PC one. And then I think Persona 3 Reload was, I think Atlus's best launch on Steam ever or something like that. So yeah, it's obviously not an issue. And obviously, like I also said earlier, I think this should use Unreal Engine 4. No point using Unreal Engine 5. Switch 2 hardware is what they should be kind of going for, because obviously Persona 3 Reload can run on a PS4, and I think it looks good personally. I don't think you need to, I don't think it needs to look any better than that. Like, it's a cel-shaded anime looking game. Like, it doesn't need ultra realistic graphics, so like it would be great. Target Switch, Switch 2, sorry. Even if it just has to run at like 30 frames or something, that'd be fine. And obviously, the PS5 and the Series PC versions can do 60 frames or whatever, that'd be cool. And yeah, I think, putting it on Switch, it just benefits you, because you're just going to get so many more sales, especially in Japan. Like, you're going to get crazy amount of sales. And I think for a lot of people, like, the whole novelty of playing JRPGs on a handheld is like, I think it's just great for people. People love it. And you think about the amount of just random games that will get a re-release on Switch and people will just buy it because it's a portable device. And, for a lot of people, they're on the go and being able to take it with them. There's a lot of people who, I don't usually do this, but a lot of people like to game on the go because they have commutes and blah, blah, blah. And, so it makes sense. And yeah, obviously, the only question is, will it be, when will we finally hear about it? Like I said, I suspect it to be next year. Not quite sure when, but I think, personally, I'm going to say that it's going to be the Switch 2 reveal. They're just going to announce it, say it's on the way, and then maybe in a couple of years or so, it'll be out, Obviously, I've noticed that, Atlus seem to announce games a lot sooner compared to what they used to, like Persona 3 Reload was just announced, and then what was it? 6 months or so later it came out? Yeah, it was like, I think it was like the end of last year, wasn't it? And then it came out by, what was it, February time or something? Like, yeah, it was kind of crazy, really, I think Solar Hackers 2 was similar. Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, obviously that was a re-release. But yeah, I think, I would imagine when it's announced, it's not going to be too far away. Don't expect it to be like 4 or 5 years. But like I said, this game is long overdue, so I would just assume that we are finally going to hear something about it. This is kind of Atlus's big thing. And I think, we're at the point where they've milked Persona 5 so much, there's just like no more they can do. So yeah, that's basically everything I have to say now. But yeah, as I was just going to say, you know, like, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Catch you in the next one.